Sally Roberts come over. No.
Ken?
That's mine.
No, the guy is on. What bill? Myers bill. 10-10.
I don't see it 10-10. There it is. What about it?
He's gonna be here just to answer tech questions.
So you're gonna present?
Tossmeyer, her aide.
Okay. I think we get ready to go. Get ready to get started.
I don't know what you're doing. All right.
I don't know, Brian. That's our word. That's why you can't say it. All right, are we ready to get going? We'll start off with House Bill 22, Senator Hayes. Please come forward. SB, Jesus. I know, but okay, I believe that Senator Augustine has a long bill. Senator, I mean, when you're ready to be chair, let me know. But I believe that Senator Hayes has been here a while. So I was gonna let Senator Hayes, who has himself as a witness, testify, but if you don't mind, we can always.
Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you. Please. You can go ahead, brother. We're ready. We're waiting on you. Appreciate you. Bill 22, very simple bill. It transfers the authority of appointing members of the Baltimore City Liquor Board from the mayor and city council president to the governor. There's also an amendment to expand the qualifications of the deputy director for the Baltimore Liquor Board. At one point in time, it was required by law that the deputy director need to be attorney. That over the years, it's changed as things have come up. Now it requires a member of the board to be an attorney, but in keeping with practice, the deputy director remains an attorney in this case. And so instead of just being restricted to a city resident, we're maintaining that the person be a city resident or have worked for the city of Baltimore 5 years immediately to the adoption. So I ask for a favorable report with the amendment for Senate Bill 22. And I appreciate your brevity. Just briefly, you have a letter of support from your delegation? Yes, they just voted yesterday. I'm not sure if the actual letter has made it over here, but as long as we can get something. Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, there's one more bill from Senator Carter, chair of the delegation, who's not around today. Senate Bill 895. Sure. Would you like to do that one as well? Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, all this bill do is increase all of the fees across the board for the Baltimore City Board of Liquor Commissioners. It remains and keep Baltimore competitive. I ask for a favorable report for Senate Bill. I believe we have a young lady who is prepared to testify on that bill, though. Yes, I'm not sure where she is. I know she's nope. No. It was an intern or something like that. Yeah, she was supposed to sit with me, but it doesn't look like she's here. Well, if you do see her, you know, I'm trying to tell her stop by. Please do. I will. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much. So that was Senate Bill 895 and Senate Bill 22. Senator Augustine, I know that you're here. Brief indulgence. I think you do have not that many witnesses. We can go ahead with Senator Augustine if you're ready to go forward, sir. Yes. Bring your panel if you have it.
Nope. Sponsor only, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate that. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Wilson, Vice Chair Crosby, members of the committee, Senator Malcolm Augustine here on behalf of Senate Bill 1, Electricity and Gas Retail Supply Regulation and Consumer Protection. Mr. Chair, I just have to start by thanking Vice Chair Crosby, who he came to me over the summer and he was like, this is an important issue that we have. Lots and lots of Marylanders are just getting really taken advantage of, have been for years, and we're going to do something about it. And with his partnership, I feel very, very good about the work that we have done together. Now, we did make some changes to the bill, which I just want to run through. We don't have to do. He had a fantastic hearing in here with the whole bill, but I will talk about the amendments that we did make. The first one is that we did make changes to the licensing penalties and the marketing disclosures. The first one was, and it's a big one, big concession, is that we exempted commercial and industrial customers from compliance with additional requirements for licensing and marketing disclosures. An additional amendment establishes a licensing of 3-year terms that for energy salespersons and energy vendors, and limits residential supply licenses to 3 years. That licensing of energy salespersons and energy vendors must begin on July the 1st of 2025. We additionally modified it to include the Retail Choice Customer Education and Protection Fund to accommodate training for suppliers, salespeople, and vendors. And by December 31st of 2024, the commission must develop a comprehensive training program for entities in the retail market. Additionally, we amended it to include that electric cooperatives are permitted to advertise, market, and promote standard offer service. Gas and electric investor-owned companies may provide customer education and receive rate recovery. We had an additional amendment that prohibited the price of retail supply from being offered at a price higher than the trailing 12-month average of company's standard offer service rate. However, we created 2 different markets. That's for the standard market. We also have created in this a green power products market that does not have that may exceed that price cap. We also amended a bill that would allow in that general market auto renewals in certain circumstances, and reauthorizes a supplier to impose certain fees on residential customers within that market, not the green market, but within the general market. Another amendment requires marketing disclosures and pricing oversight if residential suppliers offer those green power products that I mentioned. And by 2035, at least 50% of the renewable energy credits purchased to support this green power claim must be generated in the PJM region. And finally, an amendment that provides a procedure for licensing expiration. And then it also creates new positions and within the Public Service Commission, and raises the commission's assessment and electric companies and suppliers to fund the new mandates. Those are the changes that we incorporated in the Senate. And I would be open to answering questions, and would ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 1.
Absolutely riveting. We have a few questions here. I see Delegate Aaron's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned a bunch of amendments. I try to follow contracts longer than 12 months. We're not allowed to do automatic renewals. And will this cause some issues? Will they go to an 8-month renewal?
It allows for contracts up to 12 months. If someone had a contract that was an 8-month contract,
So I could automatically renew 8-month contracts, but I can't renew a 12-month.
There are 2 different parts. There is within the general market where there's a price cap of the 12-month trailing average, which we felt was an extremely important consumer protection. We did allow for there to be an auto renewal that for those who keep that pricing underneath that level and participate in that space. Now, if you are in green products, then that does not allow for the auto renewal. And the reason for that, Delegate, is that we learned the lessons from the last over 20 years of really abusive practices by folks in this marketplace that included creating barriers to individuals being able to get out of their contract by virtue of making it very difficult to get out of it by having these auto renewals that occurred. But because we have that protection on the general market, we thought that it was okay to have that, because there is a cost associated with the renewal process, and we did take that into consideration.
One of the issues we had when we were in here, we were punishing. I understand you're punishing bad actors. I get that. But when you punish bad actors, you include a lot of good actors in that. And I think part of the testimony we had when we originally heard the bill was that we were doing that. We were harming the little guys, the good guys, to get at the bigger guys. And now this is not going to necessarily help the little guy anymore. It's just
I would suggest to you that that is not the case. Again, in the larger market, The green market is a relatively small and one that we are trying to encourage from a priority standpoint, but it's a relatively small market. The much larger market is the general market where we are actually allowing for the auto renewals. But again, the overlying principle in all of this is that you're just not going to gouge our citizens anymore. So if you don't, you can function inside this market, you can use that practice. And so that would allow for them to be able to do that.
Okay, last thing, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. The mandate you spoke of, is this going to increase rates?
No, this is entirely around making sure that for this part of the bill, the supply portion of the bill, that we're going to save Marylanders money. Right now, over 300,000 of our constituents are paying in excess of $150 million every year above the amount that they have. So no, it will not.
I'm asking the question about the mandate you spoke of towards the end of your testimony. You mentioned we're going to put somebody else on another mandate to fulfill the mandate to staff.
Yeah.
Where's that?
No. So there are fees that are associated with licensing to become a part of this. But in order to be able to manage that process, the Public Service Commission needs 2 people to be able to do that. That is the money, but that won't come from rates. That will come from those people who are marketing into it and they're licensing in order to be able to do that.
Okay, the increase in fees, then that'll be passed on to the ratepayer.
No, it will not. This fee, they will go to the entities who are participating in the market. So you decide that you want to be an energy supplier. You got to get a license. That costs a fee. We got to recover the cost of being able to manage that. And that's where that's the money to do that.
Okay. But my point is that will increase fees. If I'm paying more for a license, I'm going to get that at my end user. That's all I'm saying.
Won't go to the ratepayer.
Thank you.
Doug Waffle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for your leadership on this issue, and to the Vice Chair as well for working on this. I know there's been a lot of discussion on this. You and the good delegate had a lot of discussion about the green power market, but I kind of want to dive deeper into kind of what he was kind of pointing out. So you mentioned this, right? The green power market is critically important as we kind of look to expand our state and become the state that we want to be when it comes to clean energy, right? It also is more expensive, right, for a lot of ratepayers and across the state. So if I kind of understand the auto renewal point, right, for the other side of the market, I totally get that. But if I'm an educated consumer, we can all agree that a lot of consumers, especially in our county, aren't really 100% educated on all of this, right? This is a really hefty thing for a lot of folks to understand. But say I've been in the market for 5 years. I've been a green power market purchaser for 5 years, right? I probably understand what's going on in some case, and we want to continue to encourage folks to be in that market. Have we considered making sure that if you're a long-term user, that there is not an auto renewal process for those folks? And can you speak a little bit to that?
What we looked at were the practices within the market that were used to in essence, take advantage of a significant number of Marylanders. We learned from that process that the auto renewal and then the challenges associated with getting out of a contract. The example that I always give is that I'm suffering from this myself. So I got a subscription to a newspaper or stuff like that. And I watch it and I see the price goes up on my credit card statement. I'm like, gosh, I got to get rid of that thing. But then they make it very difficult, and it auto renews. They make it very difficult for me to get out of that. Mm-hmm. When I try to call, they won't pick up the phone. They won't do this. They won't do that. And this is the practice that's been used on a variety of our constituents, significant number of our constituents, including those who may have not paid attention to this for years. And so I would just push back on your fundamental premise and say this: all that we're doing is saying we're going to establish what these pricings are. You're going to have to come back. They're going to have to come back to these customers. And within the green market, They are going to be able, taking into consideration some additional costs, you are going to be able to pay a little bit more. You can pay a little bit more, but a reasonably amount more. But that we feel that with those protections, we're able to do both things. We're able to encourage people to get into that green market, but not set up a scenario where we are creating another place where people are being taken advantage of. We have to learn from the mistakes of the past.
Right. And Senator, I fully agree with what you're saying, right? And I understand, again, as I said earlier, the intent of the auto renewal process. But you just mentioned it again, right? And again, I'm happy to talk to you offline about this. If we're trying to encourage folks to be in the green power market holistically, we want more Marylanders to be in that market if they're willing to pay that higher premium for that price. Then the auto renewal process seems to me for the ratepayer to be, if you're a long-term customer, I'm not talking about those who are in the market for a year or two. I'm talking about those who have made that decision for many years to be in that market. It seems like it's a administrative, and while we may all agree a small administrative burden, it's still an administrative burden in the long term to continue having an auto renewal. So we're happy to talk offline.
Yeah, sure. Our constituents have been taken advantage by that process. I'm unwilling to stand by on that.
Correct.
We're going to protect them, and that's what it is. But I'm happy to talk to you
Yeah,
about
and
it.
for the record, I'm not disagreeing with the regular market as stands. I totally understand the intent there. I'm just talking about
The same applies for participants in the green market who have been really taking advantage of our people in this exact same way. They need the protection too.
Right.
I'm okay with us having, saying you got to pay a little bit more for it. That's fine. But there are bad actors in the green market as well.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I apologize, Senator, if I missed this. With the amendments, did that take the hospitals out of it, or are they still?
Excuse me?
SB1?
Hospitals?
No, I'm not. I'm thinking the testimony on SB1 about 12-month leases that hospitals get their electricity. Am I?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, Delegate. Yeah, we did remove commercial. So they were covered with a significant number of the testimony that was there, came out with commercial, a lot of it.
Okay, so they would be, just to save face here, Maryland Hospital Association, their
Yes.
concerns in the.
We took care of that by
Thank
getting
you.
rid of the commercial.
Okay, thanks. Gotcha. Yep.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yep, I get it. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so I was given a letter signed by quite a few of our larger companies, so certainly not maybe the bad actors, so Constellation, Vistra, Clean Choice. And so my concern is with these concerns, if they pull out of the Maryland market, I would be worried about jobs and the taxes and other benefits that we would lose with them not competing in this market. So is that a concern? We need income revenue, we need tax revenue.
Delegate, my concern is that, at least in my district, I don't know about yours, every dollar counts for my constituents, every dollar. And they are struggling to pay their rent. They're struggling to feed their families. And these are dollars that we're putting back in their pocket. So I hear what you're saying about a small number of billionaires in Texas and thinking about their profit. But Delegate, I'm thinking about my neighbors who are going to get money back in their pocket to pay for their insurance. That's what this does. $150 million in all of our districts returned to our constituents.
Just as a follow-up, so in my district, we're a smaller county. And when you're talking about that portion, here's what we're facing in Carroll County. We have to figure out how to pay for Blueprint. We have to figure out how to pay for a whole lot of things and more mandates that come down from the state. And so we're to the point where funding our school system, which is the biggest portion of our budget, is getting to the point where we are scraping and looking for every single tax dollar. And so with my discussions with my local officials, you might save 2 cents on this side, 10 cents on this side, but we're going to have to end up raising taxes on our citizens in order to meet our budgets. So I think that the overall big picture makes it a concern for me that we're trying to solve this one problem, but we're creating additional problems and we're going to lose jobs and tax revenue. So that's my concern.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Senator, under the bill, and I'm thinking about the market, the retail suppliers, the utilities, who are the winners and who are the losers?
The winners are the people of the state of Maryland.
No, I asked.
Those
about
are the winners.
I asked about the market, okay? In a traditional sense, when we pass bills, there are winners and there are losers. The consumers, I think, lose. All right, so you and I can debate that offline. I'm saying in the marketplace of utility companies and retail supply companies, who wins, who loses?
How I'll answer it is this. The bill is around consumer protection and making sure that we are doing right by our people. The bill allows for there to be a competitive marketplace for any supplier that would like to be in that space. They just have to save Marylanders money. And that is where I still stand, Delegate. I'm not trying to be evasive.
It's just not answering the question. And I think it's one you have to ask. I'm a business owner. So when I have regulations come down on my business and I am threatened with my existence in a business setting by government, I think I'm asking a fair question. I'm not off bounds here. I'm saying.
I'm not trying to suggest that you are, but what
I'm saying that the House bill testimony is that the retail suppliers under certain circumstances get the heck out of Dodge. So I think I'm asking you the question, but I think I already know the answer. You just aren't willing to admit the possibility that this is not just a law change. Public Service Commission can protect consumers. It's their job. I'm saying who wins, who loses. Let's just be honest. Who wins are the utility companies, right?
I don't understand where.
Because they would take over the other end of the power bill.
They don't. Again, we are not changing that there is a market for the energy portion of this whole marketplace. There remains these separate parts. We are not changing that. Individuals will still purchase energy. It will still be on your electric bill. And so I'm not understanding where you're coming from, sir.
When we send companies out of the state of Maryland, the losers are these businesses that are going to be affected by your bill. The winners are going to be at some point who fills the bill. It's going to be somebody.
I mean,
I'm just asking who. I'm asking a rhetorical question.
Oh, okay. Well,
That fair enough. Ed, wouldn't you agree?
Thank you, Mr. Senate President Pro Tem. The utilities have a monopoly on distribution and transmission, correct? Not on the
Yes.
supply.
correct.
Okay. And so nothing in the bill really addresses distribution or transmission, correct? Okay. So then nothing precludes the generators of the electricity from selling into a competitive market of standard offer service, correct?
Correct.
And there's no real markup on SOS from the utilities when they supply the energy, which they have to purchase through a competitive market to the consumer, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I believe that concludes this hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. Or what was the Speaker Pro Chair, Tim? Thank you, Senator Augustine. Have a good day.
Thanks. All right.
I believe we have Senator Washington next on, but I apologize, wait, Senator Washington, brief indulgence. Is there anyone here on House Bill 895? Young lady back there in the back with the white sweater? Yes, ma'am. You're here to testify on the bill, correct? Yes. I believe it's already been presented, but I'd still like you to come testify in a way since I know you prepared. So please come on up and state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mariama Cham. I'll be presenting testimony on Senate Bill 895, the Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages Licensing Fees on behalf of Senator Joe P. Carter. So Senate Bill 895 would increase the annual licensing fees for all liquor license regulated by the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. The enhanced fees would ultimately increase the board's annual revenue by at least $185,000. This increased revenue would allow up to 4 new liquor inspectors to be hired. With approximately 1,200 licenses throughout Baltimore City, enforcement of all applicable laws, rules, and MOUs is a sizable and significant task. Employing additional inspectors would enable the agency to better ensure that all licensees are operating in a way that is respectful of the communities in which they are located. I urge this committee to issue a favorable report on Senate Bill 895. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm speaking on behalf once again for Senator Joe Carter.
Thank you very much. I see you're well prepared. So thank you very much for the presentation, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
See no questions. Have a good day. Now move on to Senator Washington.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, House Delegates, Chair Wilson, Vice Chair Cosby, and again, esteemed members of the committee. For the record, I'm Senator Mary Washington, and I respectfully ask for your favorable report of SB 69, a Baltimore City delegation bill on the topic of the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund distribution and use of funds. Just a quick reminder, when the cannabis was officially legalized in Maryland, and I know this committee did a great deal of work working on that, the General Assembly created a framework for the collection and the management and the distribution of the revenues generated. One part of the revenue structure was 9% tax rate at the point of sale, and then additionally there are fees associated with the licenses. In our state law, the state comptroller is charged with the management and the administration of the revenues, and they're required to make quarterly distributions to a range of activities. Specifically, there are 3 funds that were created. One is a cannabis public health fund. Another is a cannabis regulation and enforcement fund. And then finally, there is the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund, which receives 35% of the revenues. Each county is allocated a certain percentage of these funds based on the proportion of cannabis charges, and that amount is calculated and distributed throughout the counties. This bill establishes for Baltimore City a procedure and a principal body that is informed on transparency, accountability, equity, and pragmatism. It establishes the Equitable Community Investment Council within each legislative district that serves Baltimore City. Each will act as the principal body authorized to allocate the funds. These funds, as I said earlier, are distributed by the state comptroller in code to the Baltimore City comptroller, and then the Baltimore City comptroller will divide the funds evenly among the councils. Each council will have 15 to 17 members who will serve 2-year terms, and they include the following types of people. 3 representatives from organizations led by disproportionately impacted areas, young adults between the years of 18 and 24, representatives from human service, community services, or community development organizations, and up to 7 representatives of neighborhood-based associations. There's also 2 non-voting members, 1 senator and 1 delegate. This structure, I've requested some amendments in the course of the bill you have before you is a version amended in the Senate, but there were additional conversations that were had, so you will have additional amendments that I will ask the committee to support, which would change the number of representatives and also include 2 individuals with experience as a provider or recipient of services for citizens returning. That last group was omitted from the bill draft, the original draft, and we weren't able to fix it in time to get it across, but we wanted to make sure that they were there. More on the process for the establishment of it, the governor will make the first round of appointments according to the stipulations. And as amended, once that first round or that founding board, you might think of it, is established and it sets up the governance structure and the plans, then the councils will be elected or appointed based on the individual structure. So there's only one situation where the governor at the first, and then after that is returned to the locals. Each council has to develop a governance structure within 45 days of their first meeting. They must at least meet at least once quarterly. They must develop a sustainable governance plan and program to allocate the funds. The plans must be established before any allocation is expended. The plan must be developed in consultation with impacted stakeholders, and a public hearing must be held on the plans. Once the governance structure has been established and the plan is finalized, the councils may begin fundraising to allocate funds. Starting in October of each year, each council must submit a report to the Baltimore City Comptroller that includes a number of activities. Again, you have that in the bill. Additionally, the Office of Social Equity, the State Office of Social Equity will convene an annual meeting of the Baltimore City Community Investment Councils, as well as provide technical support. The other amendments will make sure that the sustainability plans and the governance structure are developed in consultation with the Office of Social Equity. And as amended, in conclusion, as amended, the bill passed favorably by the Senate delegation. This Friday, there will be a hearing in the House delegation and a vote at that time. I drafted this bill, which I hope will ensure that the reinvestment funds are put on the ground quickly, but also in a smart way that involves the people closest to the issues. And having a structure that divides within a large city allows for there to be different solutions and different programs in different parts of the city, representing that the impacts of incarceration or the need to reinvest in communities looks differently in different parts of the city. So I ask for your favorable report, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Senator, I have a few questions. Firstly, I understand that while the bill does appear to be local courtesy, it's in fact statewide implications. I think you're aware. And obviously this is my project from last year. So my first question is, how are the individuals, once the governor appoints them, how are they reappointed, or how do they get their positions again?
Yes. So in the bill, it says that each council, that there will be a governance structure that's created, and they would vote on that, and we create, bylaws that would say that it's going forward, it is the members are appointed in a particular way. And so there are a number of
jurisdiction could be different.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like each of the councils could have a different form
They could.
of maintaining the positions.
They could.
Okay.
And again, it's done in consultation. The amendment that I would have, because I hear your concern, the amendment would be in consultation with the Office of Social Equity, who I've been in communication with, and they actually are very interested in this as a potential model, not to enforce everyone, but that it does have a lot of the equity principles that are considered.
And it's to my understanding, the money would be split evenly between the councils.
Correct.
And so this is what I want to get to. When I set this up and I wrote this, the thing that I did not want to do, which we had done with so many other things, is create legislative fiefdoms. That was what I was getting away from.
Right.
I did not want where senatorial districts were in charge, because we've done that with we did that with medical marijuana. And I wasn't going to do that
Correct.
because I was not trying to expand or expound any of the legislative, effect power that we have. Secondly, my concern with that is one of the goals when we set this funding was to target in each of the jurisdictions, in this case, Baltimore City, the areas that were, disparately impacted by the war on drugs, impoverished areas, places like that. But by the way you're discussing it, there may be districts that have none of that.
We have no districts that have none of that.
You
We have no districts that are not impacted.
So
by
I'll
the
say it
war
a
on
different way.
drugs.
You'll have districts that have more and districts that have less, unless something has changed dramatically. So individuals that may have normally gotten into this program or gotten funded for this program will lose out because the money has now been bifurcated and split out evenly amongst each of these districts. Even though we got to admit, some of the entire districts would maybe take up a lion's share of the money if it was given out, by the city, because there will be multiple entities within that district, areas in that district that need it. But now that we've divided the money up the way we have, some of those people may never receive funding. And I say that because when I heard the bill and I saw you reaching out to me, I didn't have time to reach out back, but my greatest concern was doing the fiefdom thing again. It did not work for medical marijuana. We did not apportion licenses by legislative districts for just that reason. And I'm much more averse to now dividing something else up in that manner, because I'm concerned with, again, as I've stated, people are gonna miss out. Of the top 12, let's say problem areas, 10 of them may be in one district. But if we go this route, only 2 of those are going to get funded because other districts or councils would have an equal amount of money, regardless of any impact they may have suffered. And when I set it up because I wanted us to look at these communities that were suffering the most, not by legislative district, but by jurisdiction, by elected political jurisdiction, and make sure that the city members, and I understand your point about wanting to have a say in where the money goes, but I believe that the way we set it up is that the counties, or in this case, the city, would have that knowledge just as you will. And that's why we didn't apportion the licenses as such, because we wanted to avoid what we did with medical marijuana. And I'm saying, so those are my issues. I'd love to talk offline because.
Well, I'd like to have this on the record. So there's 2 things. One, I respect the view that this has statewide implications. But I will say this is a local bill and a local decision that at this point, the Senate delegation has approved this and has taken all the things that you've considered. I will also say that in our law, one of my concerns, which is why I began this process in drafting it, is that given all of the goals, our law is silent around how the local jurisdictions are to set it up. So the setup that was proposed in Baltimore is actually a situation where the mayor appoints all 14. The mayor appoints 16 members are appointed by the mayor. The terms are concurrent with the mayor. The individual who is interested, I'm reading from their resolution, individual who is interested in becoming an appointed member of the commission must submit an application describing their knowledge of the following: the history of the resistance of people of African descent to white supremacy, enslavement, Jim Crow laws, and other racial violence. They must display knowledge of the history of the resistance of racial, ethnic, and other minority groups. They must display an ability to address the needs of returning citizens. They must know the impact of the disproportionate enforcement of drug laws on the quality of life experienced by racial and ethnic minorities, especially of African American descent. They must have a specialization in the disruption of families and the exposure of prison systems of trauma experience and others. And again, here it says the terms of appointment. are 4 years concurrent with the mayor. The mayor changes, the commission can change. Also, each member of the commission shall be compensated as provided in the ordinance of estimates. So these will be paid positions. And so if your concern is about the possibility of political peonage, or that a head of a county or anybody could use this in a way that was not intended by the state, then don't pass this is a way to ensure precisely, this isn't, as you'll see, we're non-voting members. Like, this is not at all about senators getting, this really is about ensuring, exactly as you said, that the intent of the money, of the distribution is closest. And so rather than having 16 people that the mayor of Baltimore City can appoint to distribute money, you have 5 times 16, and they're closest and they're accountable, and none of them are elected officials.
And again, I do understand the bill.
Yes.
I will say again that while it's a local bill, there are many local bills that have statewide implications.
I understand the implications.
That's all.
But but it's.
Please don't talk over me. Please let me finish my sentence.
I apologize. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just feel strong.
So
Yes.
I understand that, but I understand it's a local bill, but also understand that it does have statewide implications, because so we do for one jurisdiction, we must do for all. So that's why, because there's no rationale not to. We can't say, well, we did it for one, but nobody else gets to do that. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's good policy. But again, and that's why when we say statewide implications, that's what we mean. And it sounds like you do have great consternation with the way your mayor plans on setting up and delving out this money. And so I will be more than willing to talk with you offline then, because
I appreciate it.
I see your point. I don't necessarily agree with the direction, but I understand having to do something. So we'll talk
We
offline.
can work it out. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
that. Any other question? Oh,
yes,
yes,
we
Mr.
do.
Howard, Senate Delegate
If
Howard.
you don't mind, let me call my
Your
people.
own committee.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Delegate Howard.
So I had the same, about the fiefdoms as you did, because I saw, I don't know what pages it is, but it's line 25, page 4. It says at the end of a term, a member continues to serve until a successor is appointed and qualifies. So I had the same questions that the chair did, but how much money are we talking? How much money are they?
About $1 million.
So these, the 14, 15, 16, up to 17 folks will be wholly in charge of distributing the $1 million.
Yeah, and could I also say that the state has already, we have this model with the gaming revenues. So, and in fact, that's what I built this model on. We have something called local impact councils. And they are operating in Prince George's County and Baltimore City, and we're also where there are local impact councils, and they are designed exactly that way. There are gaming revenues that are distributed, from the state to the city, and it goes to these councils. And so this is exactly what is currently in state law. It's also currently in Baltimore City's charter, affirmed there. And so this is a model, Mr. Chair, that is already in our law, and that we already have allowed jurisdictions to create. I just wanted to let you know. Oh, I hear you. I'm just, I understand.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Would
Chair.
you be opposed, instead of doing legislative jurisdictions,
You split it out. We can work that out.
because you guys have, in your city, you guys have council members? Am I right? Council districts? Would you?
Well, that's how the mayor, originally the bill is 14 council districts, and that each council person selects somebody, but then they are actually appointed by the mayor. So we could talk about geography.
Yeah, because that's, I think that's where.
If that's your opposition, we could
Well,
draw
it's
different lines.
again, I don't believe in creating these,
We can draw-
legislative fiefdoms.
Yes,
I think I do get your point though, so we could talk about it.
I appreciate that. We could
Thank you.
definitely draw different lines.
Bill Gamper, you don't have nothing to say about your city? You're good? Outstanding. Thank you very much. Good, Senator, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Gall, are you here for,
Liquor bills, Mr. Chair.
please go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Senator Dawn Guile, the first bill, Senate Bill 655, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
Please, go ahead.
This would simply increase the work week to 10 hours per week for the Deputy Chief Inspector employed by the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County. So right now, there's a Deputy Chief Inspector that works 5 hours per week and they get paid $9,000 per year. This would increase the work week to 10 hours per week and the salary to $18,000 a year. This bill was requested by the chair, by the Liquor Board because of increased demand for the Liquor Board services and the additional staff capacity needed to provide these services. Therefore, I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 655. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Next bill is Senate Bill 1046. This bill would authorize the Anne Arundel County Board of License Commissioners to increase by 35% the annual supplementary and other alcoholic beverage fees for specified licenses and permits in the county, fee for specified license transfers and renewal application fees for all alcoholic beverage licenses. They haven't increased their fees in about, I think, 15 years is my understanding. They're, I think the lowest, Anne Arundel County is one of the lowest for annual renewal fees. They're currently operating, the Liquor Board's currently operating as a loss. The revenue isn't covering the full amount of their expenses. So it's my understanding that an amendment was recently voted on by the Anne Arundel County House delegation that would remove increased fees for Class C licenses. This is just for one-day events. So we struck that. And for these reasons, I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 1046.
Seeing no questions, we're moving on to the next bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next bill, Senate Bill 1047. This bill basically fixes some antiquated categories of permits. We discovered when the Liquor Board did when there was an application for an axe throwing place in the district, that the only category that really fit that was a dancing permit, and that just didn't seem to make sense. So the bill would rename the entertainment permit as a limited entertainment permit, the dancing permit as a full entertainment permit. Bill is needed because the current permit names are antiquated, cause confusion among permit holders. Would also note that the bill also requires Anne Arundel County Board of License Commissioners to receive written approval from the Anne Arundel County Office of Planning and Zoning before considering certain specified permits. The board may also only issue these permits if the area is used for a permit is 100 feet away from any residentially zoned properties. But essentially it just fixes some of the categories. For these reasons, I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 1047.
I believe we have a question from Chairwoman Valderrama, Chair of the Alcohol Committee, Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize, Senator Guile. Welcome. I'm going back to the previous bill because I was reading the fiscal note. He went so fast. Nothing major, but if you don't have the answer, you can tell me offline. I just noticed that it says on 1046, the bill changes the gift basket permit to license, but then it says clarifies that the holder of the license may rather than must purchase alcoholic beverages from a retail dealer. So I was just curious why that.
Yeah, you know, and I apologize. I know that the Liquor Board chair was supposed to be here with me today and could give, and there was some disconnect. But it's my understanding that there was a technical fix that was required to the permit or to that section of the code in addition to the fee increases. There was some language that's called was using the word license versus permit. And it's my understanding is that was a technical fix.
Delegate Adams.
Thank you. So did you say dancing and axe throwing?
Sounds like a good time, doesn't it?
It always started with like the axe throwing and drinking alcohol. We had to get over that. Now we're going to learn how to drink and throw axes. And
I know. Take some talent.
Did these bills get voted on by the delegation?
It's my understanding, I know that we have a member here from the, two members here from the Anne Arundel County House Delegation and the Alcohol Subcommittee. I believe it was heard last week, and with apologies, normally we would have a cross files on these and get them all lined up timely. But we had the previous chair of the Anne Arundel County Senate Delegation became our Senate Finance Committee chair. I became the delegation chair and we didn't work out timing, but that's a long answer to your question. It was heard last week in the House delegation, and it's my understanding the alcohol subcommittee met there afterward, and I would anticipate they'd be, ruling on it soon.
I knew you couldn't resist that. So go ahead. Go ahead, Seth.
Questions, and I had a lot of questions. I know
Sure.
a lot of delegation members had a lot of questions. I haven't heard anything back from
From Mr. Harris?
yeah.
Okay.
Any timeline?
It's my understanding that Mr. Harris had provided some information, at least in, but I will be sure to get that to you, delegate, and make sure that he gets all those answers provided.
And I would again ask, he's, while he's a member of our minority party, he's a very loud member of our party. So if he doesn't get the answers, he wants, he could definitely delay this moving forward. So we may not have to agree with the answers, but I know I would love to hear the fact that you got your questions answered before we move in either direction. So
yeah, we'll get that taken care of promptly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that's all I have before you.
Thank you very much.
Excused.
Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you.
Next we have, and I don't know who came first, Senator McKay. Come on up, sir. Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Senator Mike McKay here to present the great Garrett Allegheny County Alcoholic Beverage Act of 2024. Whew. No fiefdoms here, no nothing like that. So it is a simple bill, just establishes a Class B resort beer license, resort beer and wine license, beer, wine, liquor festival license in Garrett County. It alters the hours of sales for alcoholic beverages on Sundays with certain licenses, as well as requiring at least one applicant be a resident of the state of Maryland. It also prohibits alcohol beverages from being brought into places of adult entertainment to be consumed or transferred. Look forward to a favorable report and entertain any questions you may have.
The resident, you said it requires a resident to be a resident of Maryland, be what, on the license?
To be on the license, yes, sir.
Just a point of note, we did this bill, a similar bill for Queen Anne's County a couple of years ago, trying to do that, and the Attorney General said that was unconstitutional. So I mean, you might want to keep that in mind when we move forward. He may not send it to you, but he called me.
Well, we will definitely yield the wise committee decision. If they so decide, we'll support that.
Am I right on that, Bob? You don't?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might want to remove it. All right, just a point. Thanks.
See no further questions, Senator. I believe that completes this hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. It's great to be before you today to present Senator Reedy here to present Senate Bill 694. It was requested by the Carroll County Board of License Commissioners, and it allows the District 5 Senator to pick all of the liquor licenses. And I'm just kidding. It's concerned that Lineborough didn't have its own liquor store, so we're trying to right now. I'm just joking. Okay, all right. So as amended, this bill would require that there always be someone with alcohol awareness training present in a bar or restaurant serving alcohol in Carroll County. It was not cross-filed because we were working together as a delegation, but we had some back and forth on it and ended up with just the Senate bill to be the vehicle. But it is now has the support of our House and Senate delegation, and would ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 694. Happy to take questions, of course.
Seeing no questions, I believe that does complete this hearing. Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Chair.
I believe now we have Is there anyone from, here for House Bill Senate Bill 1010? Come on up. I always say that when senators send their people, it usually means that they don't want their bills to pass, but I'm sure that Senator Klossmeyer is busy. I'll give her a pass. Go ahead, sir.
I appreciate that very much, Chair Wilson. For the record, my name is Samuel Deschanel. I'm here. I'm Senator Klossmeyer's legislative director here on her behalf. The vice chair does wish she could be here, but she has some heavy bills in finance today. So I'll try to keep this quick for you all. Senate Bill 1010 requires a retailer to have written approval from the Baltimore County Board of License Commissioners before applying to the State Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission for an individual storage permit. The purpose of this legislation is just to give the Baltimore County Board of License Commissioners the final say on how large a store can be. We're seeing a new trend in the county where retailers are requesting a certain size store at the public hearing at the local level. And then after being approved locally, they're going to the state for additional storage space. The state's not required to apply the same standards as the local board. And also this leaves the local board without knowing necessarily how big the stores are in their area. So this resulted in some stores increasing in size by as much as 25%. It's often done in the same building directly next to the approved location or maybe a neighboring building. And the local board has no authority to regulate it. So this legislation just addresses that by making local approval a requirement before seeking approval at the state level. This requirement's already in place in Anne Arundel County, and this legislation passed the Senate unanimously. In short, it's just about ensuring the local board stays apprised of what's going on in the county. If there's any questions, Steve Wise is here. I can answer any technical questions. I'm also here if you have any questions for me.
Seeing no questions, thank you very much. I do appreciate your presentation. I don't think we have to ask nothing of Steve. So I think we're good. Thank you very much. We now have House Bill 150. Is there anybody here to present that bill? Senate Bill 150. That's right. Thank you very much. If you can come on up, please. Good job, Steve. Killed him again.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. I'm Abby Rubling. I'm here on behalf of Senator Lamb for Senate Bill 150. This bill is identical to a bill that the House has already passed unanimously, and that's House Bill 1501. Just as a reminder, this bill is changing the audit timing for Baltimore City and Prince George's County liquor boards to align them with the frequency of other Office of Legislative Audit local audits. The bill does preserve the ability of the Speaker or President to request an audit of any liquor board. This bill essentially helps OLA have more flexibility in their staff time, which helps them to take on larger audits of state agencies. Thank you for your consideration, and I ask for a favorable report.
Well, thank you very much, and please let your senator know that we are looking forward to seeing his smiling face at his next bill presentation. Thank you.
I will be sure to do that. Thank you so much.
Colleagues, I believe that's all of the bills. Again, I want you all to be attentive to our voting schedule. I think we're gonna be voting tomorrow after hearings. Please let me know if you offline, of course, if you're receiving any we'll just call it unfair treatment or resistance on the other side. If you have any problems, any individuals that we need to talk to them and make sure everybody here, regardless of the side they're on, gets a fair hearing on the other side. So please keep me informed and keep me in the loop if there's anything I can do to help out. Thank you, guys. We're just on the other side. But I want to make sure if we can do it, we do it right. Thank you, guys.